This is the Art of Network Engineering podcast. In this podcast, we'll explore tools, technologies, and talented people. We aim to bring you information that will expand your skill sets and toolbox and share the stories of fellow network engineers.
She packed her bags last night, pre-flight. 0 hour, 9 a.m. And she's gonna be high as a kite by then. And she thinks it's gonna be a long fucking time. Touchdown brings her round again to find she's not that girl you think she is at home. Oh, no, no, no. She's a rocket girl. Rocket girl, burning out a fuse out here alone. And she thinks it's gonna be a long, long time. Touchdown brings her round again to find she's not that girl you think she is at home. Oh, no, no, no. She's a rocket girl. Rocket girl, burning out a fuse out here alone. And she thinks it's gonna be a long fucking time. And she thinks it's gonna be a long, long time.
Welcome to the Art of Network Engineering. I am AJ Murray at No Blinky Blinky, and I am joined tonight by almost everybody in the co-host panel.
Damn it, Dan.
Damn it, Dan. No, Dan's taking care of his boy. We can't damn it,
now
Dan
I feel bad.
For that. Yeah.
You talk shit when I'm not here. You can't talk shit on Dan?
Well, when we know that you're not here for a legitimate reason, we don't talk shit on you.
It's always a legitimate reason.
Yeah, we'll decide that. We'll be the judge of that. Andy, how are you?
I don't know. I'm trying to recover from that. I am good. I took my 4-year-old daughter to gymnastics tonight. It's the first time I've been there. There's nothing cuter than a room full of 4-year-old little girls jumping around doing gymnastics, waving to their parents. So that was really nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, work has been going well. I had a win this week, and really enjoying my time with the family. I kind of reprioritized, and I'm less crazy career Andy and more like, you know,
just generally crazy Andy,
paying attention, dad.
Super chill Andy, just
I think we've talked about it.
Life.
I get a little tunnel vision sometimes, so got pulled out of that and got a little more balance now, and it feels good. So.
Excellent. Good. I'm glad to hear that. Tim Bertino at Tim Bertino on the Twitters. How are you doing, Tim?
What's going on, everybody? Things are good. The theme around here lately is books. We've been reading a ton. It's so cool. Like, I'll just look over on the couch and like one or two of the kids are just staring at a book. It's really cool. And lately, our oldest has been getting into the Harry Potter thing. So we'll read one of them and then she can watch the movie and then read the next one. I think it was who did we have on? Nick Russo. He mentioned that of, you know, a big part of reading is it forces your brain to come up with these images yourself. And then I think it's kind of cool for her to do that and then see what the producers of the movie thought the book would look like. So kind of compare and contrast. So it's been good. How are you doing?
Nice. I'm doing well. Similarly to Andy, I've been reshuffling the old priorities and been having a good time doing it. The things around the house for the kids, right? My son loves to crash things, and we showed him the slow-mo video capabilities of our iPhones, and so he loves to crash stuff and then watch the slow-mo video back. He gets a huge kick out of it. And then
that's adorable.
He's learned too that like if he talks, he sounds funny when the video plays back. So like before he'll zoom the car, he'll sit there and like yell something, and then I got some great videos on my phone from that. So, and then other than that, it's a whole lot of Mario Kart. If you're not aware, Mario Kart's if you play Mario Kart on the Switch, they've released 8 additional courses that they're gonna like release out. You got to buy a pass, and then they're gonna release them over the course like the next year or so. And they've already dropped 2.
I have Mario Kart on the
it.
Switch. So
Yeah.
what do I have to buy? I got to buy something in addition to the
There's
$60
a
goddamn
booster
game?
pass. There's a $24.99 booster pass, and that will give you access to all of the new courses that they release over the next year or so.
DLC.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
Nintendo.
Yeah.
So who's his character? Who does he drive?
Yoshi, by far.
Excellent.
Yoshi. I'm
Aw.
Shy Guy. I like Shy Guy. Big Shy Guy.
Do you know who? I'm
Yeah.
What's her name? I'm the blonde girl.
Did you say
Princess Peach?
Did you say the blind girl?
Yeah, Peach.
The
Oh, the
main,
blonde.
the main
Okay.
characters of Mario. The blonde girl.
Okay.
I like the blonde girl.
She is in another house. Go away.
AJ, that's great to hear, man. You shout out to parents like to be present, right? Before I went to gymnastics tonight, my wife said, "Now listen, you might not want to have your phone out because the first time she was there, she said the lady next to her, the mom, was like, hey, your daughter's waving to you,' and my wife realized that she was looking at her phone, and our daughter was in the room trying to get like her mom's attention. So like now, since we've been there, it's like, all right, phone's away, pay attention. And
Yeah.
so tonight I was just present and I watched her for 40 minutes and she probably looked up, I don't know, 15 times to like smile, wave, and be proud. And I would have missed all that if I was just, like doing nonsense. So it's effort to put that distraction down and be present, but it pays dividends, right? So,
Absolutely.
yeah, good stuff.
And Lexie, how are you?
Hey, I'm all right. I'm getting through. The hummingbirds still haven't visited me, and I'm pretty bitter about it, but I'm getting through.
Give them sugar.
If anyone's not aware, I've been trying really hard to get hummingbirds to my house, and it's not working. So I'm really sad about it. It's a struggle.
They'll come.
But,
They'll come eventually.
They'll come. They're a block away at somebody else's house, and eventually they'll figure out they need to branch out a little bit.
Hang on, is it
Go cut down
the
that tree?
I was just thinking that.
I would never
Sabotage?
do that as much as I might want to.
Sabotage. Yeah.
So hold on, is it
But
the
there's always hummingbirds in it, and I don't want to cut it down with hummingbirds in there. That's really sad.
They can't always be in it. Don't they leave?
They're always in it. I'm not kidding. Every time I go by, which is every day pretty much.
You should walk over there with like a lawn chair and just sit on their, like the sidewalk at their tree and like just stare at their birds. That wouldn't be creepy at all.
I have gone for walks and runs, and I've stood there, and this person's like right in front of their front yard watching this happen. And at one point I actually met one of the people that lives there, and I was like, sorry dude, like you just have a lot of hummingbirds and it's awesome. And he's like, yeah, I know. Last summer there were like 300 of them. I couldn't walk out the door. Like he doesn't appreciate the hummingbirds. So I'm over here like, give me some of them.
I bet there's
300
hummingbird
hummingbirds?
crap all over his lawn.
Yeah, but it's so tiny. Like it doesn't. It probably
Yeah.
evaporates before it even hits the ground. They're so small. They're like this big. They're like nose size. They're so tiny.
Hang on, though, is it the hummingbird
little
thing that's
animal.
driving you to want a dog?
That's
boy.
just my life being empty and sad.
Whoa! Oh, too real. Too real.
A dog will fix that.
No. It's just we've been we've been in this house for a while. My older dog, she died in September last year, so it's been a while. And I've always had either a dog or a parrot, and I've been deciding between dog or like budgies, parrots or something. And I think a dog, if I were to get one or the other, I'd have to pick a dog probably. And I've just really missed the animal companionship.
Don't
the
parrots live
hummingbirds,
for like
they're
50
not doing
years?
it for me. Sorry? Parrots?
Don't parrots
yeah.
live for like
Really?
50 years?
They'll live for a long time, but budgies.
Yeah, my aunt has a parrot that's like 50 something years old. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't want a big parrot because they live
Oh, the
forever,
big
and
ones.
they're
Okay.
like having a 2-year-old for 70 years. So a 2-year-old that never grows up and throws
my God.
tantrums. So you don't want a big parrot. But the little ones, the smaller ones, and budgies, they're great. They'll live, they'll still live a long time depending. But budgies are maybe like 20 years, and that's not so much.
So when you
compared
get
to
back
some.
from Asheville, you're going to start looking for a dog? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. I have to convince my partner first. He's like, he's a little ambiguous on it. So we'll see. But I'm sure when I randomly come home with a dog one day, it'll win his heart over.
Oh, that's great. That's great. All right. So recall a few months ago, we first sat down with Lexie, and she informed us that she was starting a very exciting new job at Blue Origin. And so we talked to her and said, you've landed in Seattle. You've been there for a little while now. Let's give a big update on how things are going for you. That's this very exciting new opportunity.
Yeah, that's awesome.
How long
In
you
a
been
nutshell, it's awesome. I started mid-December, so
there? Very much.
3.5 months, almost 4 months.
Are
now.
you still doing onboarding training too, like I am? I can't catch up with all the trainings.
No, not like official onboarding. But I did have a lot at first, like just like HR stuff. And is that what you're talking about? Like
yeah, like
processes,
today I spent an hour and a
procedures?
half learning how to not be sexist, racist, or steal
Oh,
things. Apparently I need a training for
I had
that.
that.
It's a really good use of time.
Stealing things, I don't think I had a don't steal like training. I think it's just like implied you probably shouldn't
I'm
steal.
I'm just
laughing
taking a shot
because
at these
Andy works from home, so it's don't steal anything, Andy.
Stole my wife's heart. No, I those corporate trainings just make me nuts because it's common sense to me. Like,
Yeah, it is, but for some people it's not, and I think
Yeah.
they have to say like
you
they
shouldn't
did it,
hire
right?
those people, but I digress.
Well, yeah, if you could tell. If you could tell ahead of time, Andy, it wouldn't be a problem, right? Like
It's called screening.
Need a stronger background check.
background
So
check.
3 months.
So
Yeah.
before we
Rockets.
get into the job, I mean, this was a bit of a move, right? Can we talk about kind of the cultural
Yeah, I should probably talk
differences
about that.
between where you were versus where you are now?
Well, I don't want to say, first of all, let me just preface this with, I started out at IBM. That was my last position. When I started at IBM, I was not qualified for the job. They took a chance on me. I didn't have a single certification or any work experience. And so IBM will always have like a place in my heart because, and the people there, right? Like the manager who hired me and most of the people there, like they have a special place in my heart. So I got to say, like, it's a big change because obviously the work is 100% different. I would say there's nothing very similar.
Do you think Blue Origin took a chance on you?
Yeah. Yeah, I think they did. But I might always feel that, to be fair, I might always feel that way about any future jobs. But I mean, yeah, I you look at that job rec and you see like, all of the perfect wish list things, right? And even though, like a lot of us now, we realize like that's just a wish list and that's just their ideal person, unicorn or whatever. And so still apply for the job. You can still do it well if you don't hit every single one of those points, right? But it's still like, I still think about that sometimes, right? Like I did not fulfill all of those requirements for this job rec. So, it's been interesting.
How's the barbecue in Seattle? I know Texas is known for their barbecue.
It's like non-existent. I don't even know if there's any barbecue here. There's a lot of teriyaki places, which just means like it apparently
And
means
kale.
like
There's probably
meat
kale
in. No, I haven't even seen a lot of it's meat cooked in like a special sauce served with or on rice, like a lot of the time. Teriyaki. It's just
Are there a lot of people walking around in like flannels and jeans and long hair?
There's
Is the
quite a
grunge
bit of
thing still
flannel.
happening? Yeah.
Well, so let me just tell you, I don't actually live in Seattle proper. I live in this tiny little like more rural area. It's called Black Diamond, which I think sounds badass. It's just talking about coal though. But so I'm not in Seattle proper. Seattle proper is definitely like what you'd expect, I think. Which is very cool, but very expensive. And very flannel and long hair, like you said. Like,
Is it super different than what you're used to, like from where you're from and where you've lived?
Well, it's super different from Houston. When I lived in Austin, not so different. It's just colder here for sure. But yeah, I like, we chose Black Diamond because I'm really big into like nature and like hiking and running on trails and stuff. And my partner gets to work from home, so we wanted like a nice house. We didn't want to get like an apartment in Seattle because that's really all you can get for like our budget, right? So for the same budget, or honestly probably better than what we would have gotten in close to Seattle, we got this awesome rental house, and it's pretty badass. I gotta
Nice.
say.
That's sweet. Did your partner have to change jobs? Or I guess he's
Yeah.
remote, so okay.
No, he he's a saint. He followed me across the country. He had to quit his job. Yeah.
Wow.
Because
Okay.
because Andy, and I know you have opinions on this, and I agree with you for the most part, like they just wouldn't let him work remote. He had been working remotely completely for like 2 years during the pandemic, and they would not let him work remotely because his partner like got a new job, right? Even though he was working perfectly fine remotely without going into the office, they had a mandate eventually that said, 2 or 3 days of the week you have to come into the office, and if you don't, then you have to resign.
Wow.
So that was too bad. But he, credit to him, he's awesome, and he came with me. So, and he got a much better job, I have to say.
Good.
He ended up getting it worked out for him very well. So I'm really
Is
happy
he in
for
tech?
him there.
I don't know if I'm allowed to ask you that.
He
in
is.
tech?
No,
Okay.
that's fine. He's in cybersecurity. So
Ooh.
Okay. So I mean, there's jobs, right?
yeah.
Like
oh yeah.
a lot of tech jobs.
Yeah,
Seems like.
He didn't have to worry. He was worried at
Good.
first, and then he started putting feelers out, and then he was not worried anymore after that. So it worked out.
So he's
It
a
worked
keeper.
Oh yeah.
Good job.
The man followed me across the country.
I
Of course
know.
he is. Yeah.
If that's not
he's
love. I don't know
awesome.
what is. That's
He's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I'm really glad. I don't know if I could have taken this job if he hadn't come with me, to be frank. Like, I don't know if I could have done it. So I was very happy, and I'm still very grateful that he did that. So
Very
So
cool.
can we circle back on how you found this job? Or I think it's the reverse, right? Didn't it find you?
yeah, so I don't know if anybody remembers or paid attention to this, but when I first like started my Twitter account last summer in 2021, I had in my bio like a silly little kind of a joke tagline that was
remember.
like, yeah, Andy, yeah.
Anybody
It
tell me
said,
how to get a job at NASA or something, right?
there you go. Yeah, it said,
Yeah.
y'all know how I could get a job at NASA. And it was a joke, but also like serious, because I know that you can obviously, like, there's network engineering careers at NASA or like NASA adjacent, right? And I thought that was really cool. That's always been something in my periphery on my radar. And so I had that in there. And after a little while, I don't remember, somebody messaged me and he was like, hey, I don't work for NASA, but I am in like aerospace. And if you're interested in some of the like technologies that you should, that would be a good idea to like learn about and get into, if you're interested in that sector, then, here, let me know. And then he and I had a conversation that was really great about some of those different protocols and technologies, and I hadn't heard of any of them, right? Like we were talking about TTE, time triggered Ethernet, earlier. That was one of the ones that he pointed out to me. And I read up on it. Like there's not actually, I couldn't find a whole lot. There's like a Wikipedia, entry for it and like a few other things, but not a whole lot. Time triggered Ethernet is fascinating. And so are some of these other protocols he talked to me about. So we had a good conversation. And then it sort of fizzled out. And then later on, months later, he sent me another message and he was like, hey, I work for Blue Origin. We have a job opening. I think you might be pretty good for the job. If you want to apply, here's the link. And he sent me the link. And then he was like, just FYI, you'd have to move to Washington. You'd have to move to work here in Kent. And later, eventually, you might be moving to Florida after that as well for like rocket launch reasons. So I knew that going into it. And I decided to apply anyway because it's it's space, right? Like you can't not apply for like that,
Hell
right?
yeah.
I mean, yeah. And it, the job, it looked like an awesome job. I didn't think I could ever do that, but I was like, yes, someone invited me to apply. I'm going to.
So you looked at the job description. You didn't think you could do it, but you applied anyway. Say it again.
Say it again.
Yep.
People need to hear this. Like,
yes, it's true. If you look at a job description, you don't have to hit every single one of those points to be successful at that position. So remember that.
So was that an internal recruiter and they saw NASA in your Twitter bio and reached out?
Not a recruiter. It was actually another network engineer.
Working in that vertical?
Yeah. Working on, somebody else who at the time was working on New Glenn, the rocket that I'm now working on. So like he's a much better network engineer than I am, right? With like tons more experience. But I'm not totally sure. I think he may have caught that I do live streams and such about me learning, and so I think that might have been something that caught his attention.
And your shit posts.
Can't forget the shit posts.
I don't know that he ever mentioned the shit posts to me. But I've never had anyone say that they didn't like the shit posts or that they're a problem.
Everyone loves the shit posts.
How could you not?
They're amazing.
They're still very informative, right? Even though there's a lot of like, fuck words in there. So yeah, I applied and I had a great first interview. I thought it was just sort of like a screening, to make sure I'm like sane and a normal person and talk a little bit about the job and what to expect. I thought it sounded awesome, but like still something that I probably couldn't do. So I was just thrilled to have the interview,
Was that a technical interview at all, or was it just personality?
The first one was not. It was more personality, and they told me more details about what the position would be, right? More of a learning. It was more learning for me, right? Which was great. And so I talked to my, the potential now, my manager, and also the person who recruited me, basically, who like had messaged me, and I talked to both of them, and I like them both a lot. They're both great guys. And they just, they kind of put me at ease. Like it was a great conversation, but I still didn't think like this was going to be something that would pan out for me. But then they asked me for a second interview and I said no. Yeah. I had such a great conversation with them and I really liked talking to them. And working at a place like Blue Origin is a dream job, for me. And so I kept thinking about that job rec and how many things I couldn't cross off the list, right? Like I couldn't do a lot of the stuff on there. So I actually ended up saying, I sent an email to both of them, thanking them for like the wonderful conversation and for giving me a shot and for, even considering me for the position. And I said, basically, Blue Origin's a dream job for me in the future. This is where I want to end up. Right. But I'm just not, I don't have the experience and I don't have the skill set to do the job. How did I put it? Like to do as good a job as this position deserves, like you guys deserve somebody who is really skilled and can do a great job. And I didn't feel that I'm there yet. Right. So then I got a reply back and from both of them and they both said, had a lot of nice things to say about me, but ultimately it was, we want you, please reconsider. We will never put you in a position where you will be uncomfortable, where you won't know what to do. We will be there, we're there to help you learn. We'll guide you along the way. And you impressed us a lot. We really want you to work for us. So please do reconsider. So, I talked to my partner and at the time we were both just like, what? Like I had told it, he looked at the job rec too, and we were both like, okay, this is insane, but yeah, of course interview for this. But we didn't totally take it seriously. Like maybe we actually will be moving to Washington. Neither of us really thought this was going to happen. And then after that, reply, we were both just like, uh-oh. So, yeah, so after the very, very kind things that they said to me, I decided, you know what, like, I have to take a chance on myself. And this is really, really scary. It's really, really scary. But I would be lying if I said I didn't want to do it. And so, my partner and I talked it out a bit, and he was like, you know what, I support you. If you want to do this, you should do it. And so I went for the final interview, and that was the technical one. Yeah.
It was how intimidating was the technical interview for that job?
It actually, preparing for it was incredibly intimidating to me, because I was just like, I'm just a ball of anxiety anyway.
And
but,
how do you know what to prepare, right? Like, I never know for technical interviews. There's such a wide breadth of information that a network engineer, is assumed to know. And you never know what they're going to ask you.
This was different. This was different. It was not like a quiz, which I really appreciated. It was, I worked very hard to prepare for it, but it wasn't like, okay, quick, tell us the BGP finite state machine or whatever. It was not intimidating in the interview, because everyone who was there, like, was a very positive presence, and I could tell, they wanted me to succeed, and they wanted to listen to me, and they took it very seriously. But I could, it was good vibes in the interview, I have to say.
I have two questions. Was it in person, and how did you know what to study?
So it was not in person, because at the time I was living in Houston, Texas, right? And so they're all, well, some of them are in Kent. Somebody else was, I think, in like California. But so it was a Teams call. And the interview was actually, they gave me this information ahead of time, a couple weeks out, and they told me what to prepare, basically. And it was, I don't remember all the details, but it was basically like, talk to us about your experiences, give us specific examples of, and walk us through technically what you did, how you figured it out, things like that, things you had to troubleshoot, problems like that. So I went through my history at IBM and some of the like things that I had troubleshot as a NOC engineer, and obviously like sanitize them, so there's not like any proprietary information in there. But I went through some of the technical issues that I had to work through as a network engineer, and I made like a PowerPoint and had slides, and I walked through in, I think it was like an hour or 50 minutes or something presentation that I had to do. And I walked through each of these different situations, and occasionally someone would ask me a question, I would answer it. But that was the meat of the interview, technically wise, I guess.
Yeah. You had to prepare like a PowerPoint deck, huh? Okay.
Yeah, they didn't, it wasn't required, but it was like, heavily suggested maybe a PowerPoint would be good. It was really, the point was just to walk through troubleshooting and different issues you've seen, and how your thought process is when you're working through this.
It sounds like they wanted to see how you think, right? How you think through a problem. It reminds me of like my Comcast NOC interview. I didn't know a lot of the stuff, but they kind of prodded me down. Like, I didn't know much about BGP at the time, but like, okay, well, they helped me a little bit. They gave me morsels. Yeah. Just to see like, okay, well, if I were to tell you this, what do you think? And it's interesting.
I like those kinds of interviews. I feel like those are more like constructive, and they really want to know the things that matter, right? Which is really how you think. Not every single fact you can memorize.
You want to see how your mind works, right? Because you could apply that mind to rockets, right?
Exactly.
Like if you did it at IBM. Yeah, that's really smart.
Yeah, so it was actually, it was stressful to prepare, obviously, but I actually really enjoyed making that PowerPoint in the end, because I have like a solid, in case I need it in the future. I may not, but like I have a nice looking solid representation of the things that, some of the technical issues that I've troubleshot. And I've looked back on it like the other day, just because I was cleaning out some files and stuff, and I had this nice like warm fuzzy feeling like, oh, I've done that, I've done those things. It's cool. So yeah, so it was that technical part, and then I talked to a few different, leads on the team and the manager in separate little interviews after that.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for some reason they wanted me to work for them still after that. So
did you get an offer that day, or was there like a lag between?
I mean, I didn't get an official offer that day, but I got okay, what's going to stop you from working for us type of question. So it was really, really awesome.
So cool.
It was, definitely the best interview experience I've had, for sure.
So did you like jump up and down and scream when you got like the official offer? Like, I mean, this is like such a cool job, right?
Yeah. I mean, well, it was, I think I had that going on in my head when, my manager was like, okay, what's going to stop you from working for us? Because at that point I realized like, oh shit.
Oh my God.
Oh shit. It's actually happening. Yeah. So, but yeah, after that, I just, sat back and it's like, well, I guess it's happening.
I was gonna say, what was that like to when you finally got that word that it's like, okay, I guess I'm moving across the country now. I mean, because you had been in Texas a long time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Texas. I'm from the area that I was living in at the time, and I don't have a problem. Look, I'll be honest, I don't have a problem leaving.
Okay.
Texas, all right, but God bless the Lone Star State, but also like it's okay. So and Washington is a beautiful place, and I knew that, and I knew I wanted to I don't want to be stuck in one place forever, so I'm cool with moving. The hardest part was just like my parents are still there, and leaving them was really difficult. Just cause I love them, and yeah, I miss them. So that was a little hard.
How excited were they for you? Because we don't have to say, but I happen to know they're pretty educated, smart sounding people to me, and like to say like, hey, I'm going, because I mean we know your history. You've told that like you were at that terrible law thing and like it's just sucking the life out of you. Like your journey's been amazing.
They've seen me at the worst, in the worst jobs, in unsafe situations at times. They've seen me do some stuff that, or work for places and people that were not great. And they were just really, really stoked. They were stoked for me with IBM, first of all. And they're just beyond excited for Blue Origin. Yeah. My dad, especially, at one point, he was like, I told so-and-so that you're going to go work for Blue Origin. They didn't even know what Blue Origin was. I couldn't believe it. So yeah, they're really proud. And it was, it's really nice to have that.
My God. Mm-hmm. I want to ask how scary day one was, but I feel like I'm asking too many questions here. Like the interview sounds intense, right? But then like, oh my God, when you start day one, like
before we jump into day one, like
holy.
For anybody listening, like Lexie, can you just kind of like give us the 101? Like, what's your title at a high level? What do you do?
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. So my title is not network engineer. Actually, I'm an Avionics Integration Engineer. And avionics is kind of a broad term, so it means something slightly different at various companies, is what I've sort of come to learn. So it's like a blend of like aviation and electronics, right? So if you just sort of think in general of like, okay, the electronics involved in aviation, except we're applying this to spacecraft, that's a good sort of like way to think about it in general, right? So my role is I think it's so cool, and I just hope I can like do it well. But it's so we have so I'm specifically working on one rocket. We have a bunch of different business units, which is our different we have like New Shepard, the rocket they've already launched a number of times now, and like first human flight with Shatner. Well, I guess he wasn't first human flight, but he was on one of the New Shepard launches, right? Like that rocket has its own like team dedicated to it. New Glenn similarly has its own team dedicated to it, and so I am one of those people. So I work in the avionics department on New Glenn, but I'm on the networking team specifically dedicated to the vehicle itself. We have networking people. Obviously at Blue Origin, like enterprise networking, we've got networking people on the ground for like launch things that are like ground related, not with maybe talking to the vehicle, but not actually on the vehicle. And then I'm on the team that is on the vehicle.
Very cool.
Wow.
Yeah, so my role is to help boxes talk to each other on the vehicle, essentially. Anything related to that.
So what you said you're on a team that works on the actual vehicle. Is it a handful of people? Is it a huge team?
Well, the New Glenn in general, the number of people that are like working on New Glenn is a lot of people. I couldn't give you a number, but like it's everybody from the people who manufacture the parts to the people working on the radios that are on it, the people who work on the various different types of, like proprietary types of boxes with their own software. Like we have a team for basically every type of box that's on there. Yeah, I mean it's so the networking team is actually very small though. It's me and 2 other people.
Wow.
For the vehicle itself. Yeah.
So you better hope you got some decent chemistry there.
Oh yeah, they're great. They're awesome. Yeah.
Jordan
I'm very lucky there. I have an awesome team.
Jordan in the chat's asking what kind of networking gear gets used for that purpose. So are these custom networking boxes for the vehicle, or are you buying off the shelf?
So I can't. This is your favorite phrase already, but I can't give like details about what's on the rocket. Unfortunately,
it's Netgear. You just tell.
Yeah, just all these dumb Netgear switches. Yeah. If you think about what you might have to deal with on a rocket, like on the vehicle itself. That you don't have to deal with when your stuff's just sort of like sitting nice and snug in a data center, is very different, right? Like you have to think about how hardened are the boxes. Like you have to have hardware that can withstand radiation. You have to have like protocols working on there that can also withstand.
Not just security hardened, but actually physically hardened.
Yeah, they're going to get the shit shaken out of themselves during launch, right? Like,
yes, there's a ton of vibration, there's a ton of heat, and then a ton of cold, right? Like you have the extremes of a lot of different physical things going on. So, if you think about that, some places with their spacecraft might do like custom proprietary things. Some might like hire vendors to do specific things for them. Some might just use straight up, switches and routers that are from whatever vendor. Like it just depends on what your rocket's purpose is. And how much, I guess the purpose isn't really, it's part purpose and part like how far is it going to go up there? Like what's it going to do? Is it going to be in space for a while, or is it just going to sort of go up and come back down? Is it going to like go up and stay up? Like what's going on with
I was going to say, I don't want to
So,
know the length
there's a lot
of
to
single mode
consider.
fiber it takes to break into the Earth's atmosphere.
well, that's what I was just going to ask, and you're obviously going to tell me to go to hell when I come up against the. Well, no, like, so this is sensitive, right? So just tell me if it's. So what I'm thinking of is the rocket is self-contained, and it's got stuff has to talk to stuff, right? So to me, that sounds like a LAN. So like the rocket's basically all local.
It's a rocket network for sure. Yeah.
And then the WAN is like some kind of wireless magic that talks back to Earth or satellites, or because it has to talk to something else.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
like the communications
again,
for no. Well, that's what I'm
can't
saying.
give
But like
details, but yeah,
but
like
the communications, for
on
example, like somebody in
rockets.
the thing talking to ground control. I mean, is that traversing the network? Is that something different? And you may not be able to answer this, but it's just fascinating to think about from a
in
networking
general. I can
perspective.
talk about like in general.
Yeah.
I think it's really fascinating to just sort of like, because I actually don't know how a lot of things on this rocket work, so I would be speculating anyway.
Like
but
who designs the network, right? Like is there a network architect that designs this?
Yes,
Like, right?
there is a network architect. Yeah.
Right.
That was
Yes,
going to be my
absolutely.
question
I have
too.
to know-
Is it your team directly that gets to find the requirements and select whatever gear it is that's going on, or is that happening within another team? How does that work?
Well, that was the person on our team who's the architect. Yeah, that was
Okay.
his role, was to he had everybody with boxes on the rocket, right? Like every team involved kind of has a say in a way, because all their boxes are going to be talking to each other, and every one of those boxes has their own sort of things going on. And so how do they communicate over the network? It's sort of a give and take between the networking team and all these other owners of the boxes. You have to sort of like, make the peace between everybody in that way, which is really fascinating to watch happen. it's definitely a collaborative effort. It's not just like we have a network architect who knows the networking things and really guides it, but you have to have input from all the other box owners because not one person can know everything.
Yeah,
right?
that's kind of what I wanted to ask.
That's cool.
There's so much gear on there, even outside of networking. So it's a big collaborative effort. How often are these teams like, are you sitting in meetings all the time? I would think all these people got to be talking constantly to make sure this all works.
Yeah, I definitely have to communicate. Definitely have to communicate. There's meetings for sure. There's plenty of meetings. It's just communication. Talking about it, setting goals.
Does everything that happens on the rocket have to go over the network? So like if they need to do a burn and they press the button to do a burn, does that command traverse a network to the engine? Well, right. Like, so everything in the rocket.
How does the engine know? Yeah.
How do it know?
Right? Yeah, that definitely goes over the network. Yeah, like you have to.
Everything you do, right? I mean, that's you talk about critical infrastructure. Like
any possible command or anything, like a sensor, like sensing something and then telling another box to do something else, like that is the network. It's everything. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I have to know, Lexie, do you call it a
so
RAN, like a rocket area network?
No, but that's so cool. What do we call it? Launch vehicle network, I guess.
Oh, all right.
The vehicle network. It's way more boring than I mean. Rocket area network.
I know you can't tell us, but there has to be redundancy, right? Because every good network has redundancy.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, there you still have some things that are similar, right? Like you have to consider, redundancy is a good one, bandwidth needs, things like that. What kind of traffic maybe needs to have priority over other types of traffic, and how do you accomplish that, right?
Space quas.
Space quas.
Nice.
Nice. I love that. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's just to me, it feels like a totally, it's not completely different than thinking about it, enterprise networking or service provider or whatever, but it is like another angle of thinking about networking. And that's really had me, like, I've had to get out of my comfort zone a lot because I went through CCNA and partly CCNP, and it's like Cisco, and like, this is the stuff that happens on the network and this is how it goes, blah, blah, blah. But when you're doing something as inventive and innovative as like Blue is doing, you have to break some rules, right? So it's not always going to be like traditional networking. Like, this is exactly the size of whatever. This is exactly how the packet's going to be. This is exactly the behavior. It's a little bit, it can be different depending on what you're trying to accomplish.
And there's got to be Wi-Fi, right? Like if your astronauts have like a tablet or like a laptop they're working on for like research or something, like they're not plugging an Ethernet cable in.
So New Glenn is more of like a carrying aircraft or carrying spacecraft, right? So it's less of like the ISS type of thing and more of like, they definitely can like communicate with the ground, right? But it's more of like carry loads up there and do whatever needs to be done with them. It's not really
like
the
space station, maybe like doing load and
something like that. Yeah, like whatever. I think we have
satellite launches or something like whatever the space companies do.
New Glenn is enormous, right? It's going to be so big. Like if you guys have seen
322 feet long, just in case you're wondering.
Andy knows. Sorry, I'm going to bring up my.
I was Googling as you were talking earlier because so what I wanted to know, like I mean these are reusable. But what my real question is like you said you were going to have to move to Florida for launches, and I'm like, well, I'm used to the old school, like you launch a rocket and that's it. The end. Like, why are you going to have to move to Florida for one launch? But now we're in like reusable spacecraft world where, so you help build,
which is so cool.
Yeah, you help build New Glenn, and then you'll follow it to where it's going to launch, and then you'll just be there for the reusable launch stuff, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't know my specific timeline. I'm not 100% sure about. I think it depends largely on the rocket timeline, and like I'm I'm not totally sure, to be honest.
I'm just curious if
what's
the
gonna
engineer's like
happen.
tied to a rocket, like New Glen's your jam, and that's where you're going to be, or are you like assigned to multiple rockets? Like how does that work?
There are a lot of opportunities for remotely working on that rocket. It's not like the whole New Glenn team is going to go down there to see the launch, although I'm sure most of them will want to, right? Because it'd be so cool. But like a reusable, your work's not done.
That's why Andy wants to buy a jacket. He just wants to blend in.
Well, yeah, exactly. If you look like you belong there, Tim, they won't kick you out. It's all about confidence. Well, no, I'm on whatever that, I don't know if it's United Launch Alliance or whatever, but I'm on some email thing that every time there's a launch, they email me and there's tickets you can buy. And like, I can't wait to see a launch. I've never seen one. Yeah.
Well, when New Glenn launches for the first time, come down to Florida. We'll have a party.
Dude, that sounds amazing. So are you going to be like emission control, like when it's launching? Like, will you be in there? And like that
I think that's the idea, right? Like I said, it's flexible. I hope so, right? I hope so. But
oh my God, you're gonna have a headset.
That's the vision for. Well, I don't think mission control, but it'll be sort of like a backroom thing. Like, okay, the network. I'm seeing the telemetry or whatever. Like the network looks good. I'm good if we launch, and then we've got other people who say the same thing about their stuff. And we, or if it doesn't look good, we go, okay, we're not going to launch today. Let's take a look at this thing that we're seeing. Wow. Right. So
I'm just thinking all the videos you see of like the launch teams and they cheer at every stage and everything that happens. And I've often wondered like, is this like, are they telling them to be all excited? But now I'm thinking of like how difficult what you guys are doing. Like, right.
It's
everything
1,000%
right.
genuine. Yeah. I can't, I literally can't tell you how much work it goes into it, but it's just every tiny detail you have to think about. Like for some, it's stuff going up into space, right? It's so much work. So every time you see a video of engineers watching their rocket do anything and cheering for the littlest thing, that's because so much went into that little thing happening,
So you have to outfit this rocket with all the networking gear. Is there like a prototype that you get to work with first to make sure everything is going to go where it needs to go and connect the way it needs to connect?
Yeah, so the rockets get built elsewhere and they're like put together and assembled like in Florida where they're going to launch, but the hardware does that too, but we should, right? Like everybody should. We have a lab where we have the same hardware but not the actual stuff that will be on the rocket, and that's where we do simulations and tests. So we call it flying. We call it like it's flying the whatever, like flying the lab. We simulate flight. So we have some flight emulators. We've got things that pretend to be engines that are set up in there, and so they can we basically simulate the whole rocket doing its thing, and we can run tests. We can look at latency. We can do packet analysis, whatever we need to do, and take a look at what's going on and get it all in ship shape before we actually like set it all up on the thing itself.
I can't fathom any of this. This is just
this thing. Tim, you should see the picture I'm looking at. It's almost as big as frickin' Saturn V, like the thing that took us to the moon. For Christ's sake, this thing is huge. What makes a heavy rocket? Is it like payload? Like it says it's a heavy.
Actually, that's a good question. I don't know.
Oh, sorry.
Because it's called it. No, it's okay.
It's just so. Well,
I told you I don't know. I've been here for 3 months. I don't know anything about rockets. Yeah, it's so big. It's wild to see because like we're all kind of familiar with like how big New Shepard is at Blue, and like New Shepard's pretty big, right? Like it's a rocket, and it's that big reusable boy. But New Glenn will be able to fit. It'll be so big it will fit 3 New Shepards like inside of it, circumference wise, and also like it's as tall as 3 New Shepards. Like it's so big.
It's going to launch payloads of 13 tons. Dear Lord. Mm-hmm. This is so cool. I gotta go work on my Twitter bio. Hold on. I gotta put I love space in my Twitter bio.
There you go. I
need to get somebody's attention.
Oh man. It's funny. I learned somebody I used to work with actually went and is working for SpaceX now, so that's funny.
Oh wow.
Had to joke about it, like, oh, we're mortal enemies. Oh, but yeah, it's exciting. It's very different. It's very, very. It's it's challenged my perception of network engineering for sure. And like electronics. Often I feel like I should just go back and get like an electrical engineering degree, because then I would understand what is going on. It's working with a lot of different people, a lot of different boxes, learning to speak the various languages of like different software or like whatever it is that the person you're talking to works on.
Oh my God, software, like
cool.
bugs, right? I'm thinking like, code bugs and routers and switches. Like you don't want to hit a bug up in Spacey Poo.
No,
that's not a good place to hit a bug.
Spacey Poo. No, you don't.
Everything just rebooted. Oh, that's just a bug. You got to upgrade your code. I'm in orbit, bro. I'm in orbit.
It's a hell of an out-of-band network.
Bro.
Exactly. Wow.
Yeah,
I wonder if they fly out with console cables.
Oh my God. I can't tell you anything, Andy.
Yeah,
I know.
know.
Funny to hear you speculate.
It's just so fascinating.
I have some fun fast facts that are approved by Blue that I can read to you about.
Excellent.
Ooh.
Here we go. Recent progress. Okay, on New Glenn, we have our first 7-meter fairing complete. We got really excited about that, actually.
What's a fairing?
It's the part of the rocket that sort of protects the payload from like the wind and the heat and all that stuff when it's going up. And then at some point, like you're getting up into outside of the, like, you're up in the stratosphere or whatever, and it's time to shed some weight. And so the fairing is actually designed to just like come off in a couple parts, right? And it'll fall away. So there's like there's a whole team that deals with the fairing, and like you have to test that to make sure it does what it's supposed to. Like we have our first stage mock-up simulator that's complete. I'm trying to understand what that actually means. First stage mock-up simulator. I guess so. The stages of the rockets. You have stage 1 that carries everything up, and then stage 2 is actually what keeps going, and stage 1 is the reusable part that comes back down, right?
Okay.
So I guess we have a mock-up of first
So Lex, when the computer tells the fairing to separate and go bye-bye, that's a message going over the network, right? Like,
it sure is.
Dude. Yeah. All right, sorry. Keep going. Like nothing happens on it without traversing the network. Like you talk about critical infrastructure. Like it's bonkers.
Just watching.
There is a network involved with
watching
every
that
command.
happening. That's got to be like Tom Hanks in Castaway when he makes fire and he's just standing there. Look what I have created.
Yeah, because part of this is like, you get sort of tunnel vision doing your own little projects, your work here, but then like you have to step back every once in a while and realize like, oh shit, we're building a rocket. We're human beings building a rocket right now. And the reason we are talking about addressing schema right now is because it's going on a rocket, like it's a little, I can't believe human beings build rockets. I can't believe it, still, and I'm working here. So.
I don't think there's a cooler job. Like, I can't think of a cooler job. Like, I grew up, like, Evel Knievel was cool. He's this crazy guy on a motorcycle. He used to, like, do dumb stuff and hurt himself. And I thought that was cool. And then I learned about fighter pilots, and I thought that was cool. But, like, working and building rockets, and, like, you're going to go to launches, and
I think the only thing cooler would be to actually get to go up there.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. You'll probably go to space, so cool. Knowing you.
I would love to. I would absolutely love to. That would be.
Let's think about this for a second. I mean, look at the exponential career growth in the last 2 years.
It's amazing, right?
She's either going to be
an astronaut next
on the rocket or in the White House. I'm not sure which one, but
right.
Oh, you flatter me.
I mean, good Lord.
No. I'm just stoked to be where I am at this stage of my life. I couldn't be happier. It's really an amazing place to be working. And,
well, I think it's just,
yeah.
And I'm not just saying this to say this, but we talk a lot about with people in the community about how it's okay to career pivot, right? If something isn't right, you can take charge and make a change and look. I mean, you're the prime example of that. Something wasn't working the way you wanted to. You made a shift that you thought was a big shift, and then you took it exponential and made another huge shift in a matter of, a couple years.
I didn't know this would happen. I really didn't. I don't know how to, like, I think a lot of people ask sometimes because they're secretly sort of hoping for like a secret sauce or something. I'm not perfect. I am not the world's best network engineer by any means. I'm not actually that like very technical. I have a lot of places I need to grow in, my technical journey. But, sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes you actually end up putting your best foot forward and someone sees. There's no question I've been super, super lucky, but I will say that like the one piece of advice that actually is secret sauce is like, do take chances on yourself. If something's not working, change something, right? Like it's when we stop doing stuff. Like maybe what you try like 15 different things, they don't work for you, but keep trying, because it's when you stop trying to make things work that it really, you're not getting anywhere then, right? I tried a bunch of different crappy, honestly, really awful, some of my jobs that I had before I got into network engineering. I tried some stupid things, I had like a found footage horror. Like I tried to be famous on YouTube for a while. I did that. Like it was terrible. I had a job going door to door, like asking for money for like vague political reasons. And that ended up being work, it was a scam and I didn't even know it. Right. Like I've worked for insane lawyer. Yeah. I've had the worst jobs and I just had to keep trying. You just have to keep trying. It won't always work right away. I didn't just sort of like have all this sort of just happen first try.
Yeah, I think it's just a story and just not limiting yourself. Just do things, find out what you like and go after it.
Yeah. And like the worst thing that can happen, if you don't think you can do a thing, but it sounds awesome and you want to do it, just do it, and do your absolute best at it. And if it doesn't work out, like at least you took a chance on yourself, right? It's worth it to take a chance.
Would you say you were in like a relatively dark spot, like right before you quit that last job and moved home?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's why I put, a reminder in my calendar, like, are you still miserable, for 3 months later? Because I was truly miserable. I was in a place where I felt like if I didn't have a job that, like, I don't know. I don't know how to describe. Like I felt like I was a drain on society, which wasn't true, but it felt like it, right? Because I didn't have a job that fulfilled me in any way, and I wasn't very good at the job I was doing. I was in a really, really bad place, and that's the only thing that would have forced me to like get up and change careers, right? Because it's very easy to keep going as you are, even if you're pretty miserable. Sometimes it does take like that extra kick of like self-awareness and, okay, something needs to change.
Yeah, it's such an inspiring story. You were in a dark place. Like I've been in dark places too, and I can't believe how good my life has gotten. And when I was in that dark place, like it seems to me like when you're sad and you're in a crappy place, it feels like it's going to last forever. I don't know what that thing is.
Yeah.
But like, this is never going to end. This is my life. This sucks. And it's such an inspiring story that, you made some changes and some decisions and took some action, and holy shit, like you're working on rocket ships now. Like, when you think back to how you felt then, right, in that dark time,
I never would have.
And then you look at yourself now, like, wow, and it's just such an inspiring story to share with people. Seriously.
Well, thanks for seeing such a light in my story. I feel like I've been very, very privileged and lucky. I was able to quit my job and move in with my parents, who were supportive. And we had a good relationship, and they had enough money to allow me to do that, right? Like not a lot of people have that. So I want to emphasize, like, yeah, I've worked hard, and I feel like I've earned, what I've gotten, but at the same time, like I had privileges a lot of other people don't. So not everybody's gonna like, you don't have to be working on rockets to feel like you've done something worthwhile, right? Like you've come out the other end of that tunnel. Just find something that pays you decently. You can live on it and you feel good about yourself, right? Like that's what matters. You can look at yourself in the mirror, you've worked hard for it, and you're doing your best. That's what success really is. You don't have to be working on rockets just to be happy with where you are.
When I got my CCNA and was working at the NOC, I was on top of the world. I'm like, oh my God, I have engineer in my title. I can barely multiply. This is amazing. You know?
Yeah, somebody asked me like last week or something, like what what I'm proudest of, my proudest accomplishment to date or whatever in my career. And it's always gonna be the same answer forever, and it's my CCNA, because that was the certification that really just like cemented for me that yes, I'm a network engineer. I turned my life around. This is my career now, and I'm gonna go places. Like there's so much blood, sweat, and tears that went into studying for the CCNA and the reasons behind studying for the CCNA. And it's an entry-level cert, but I don't care. It's the best thing I've ever done. I'll always be like most proud of it, I think.
Congratulations, Lexie.
Thank you.
All the hard work is paid off. You deserve it.
And now I'm not going anywhere. They're stuck with me in space.
So listen, you're not going to get interviewed again here until you're an astronaut. So get to work.
Okay. We're not doing another follow-up.
Just give me a couple years, all right?
That was the fastest challenge accepted I've ever heard in my life.
As long as Riverside works in space.
I'm hoping one of these days they're going to do like a raffle for their employees where like every time they launch, like it's a human certified launch or whatever, they have a raffle for at least just one employee who gets to go. And I'm hoping they do that and I win that raffle one day.
Y'all got that employee discount for space launches?
In my interview, I asked my manager, I was like, is there an employee discount to go up on a rocket? And he was like, yeah, 10%, without missing a beat. So I was like, oh, okay. So it's only like, $15 million instead of, like, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see what the future holds.
Awesome. Lexie, thank you so much for sharing that update. And like Andy said, we're not going to invite you back for another update until after you're up in space. We'll do that live stream, though. Don't worry. You'll be able to catch it on our YouTube channel. Guys, I am so excited to see you in Asheville here in just a few weeks. I can't believe it's happening. We've got over 40 people registered for the event. We've had a super cool pop-up swag store going this week. Tomorrow's the last day, so you're not even hearing this recording until next Wednesday when it's already closed. Sorry if you missed it. Hopefully you follow us on Twitter. This has been such a fun update. Thank you so much, Lex.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun being a guest on
your own show.
On the podcast where I am a host sometimes. Yeah.
Rocket Woman.
And no better way to end the show right there with what Andy did. That's great.
Yeah.
Pew pew. I dig it.
Awesome.
Pew pew.
Well, Lex, Tim, and Andy, thank you so much for joining tonight, and we'll see you next week on another episode of the Art of Network Engineering podcast.
Hey there, friends. We hope you enjoyed listening to that episode just as much as we did recording it. If you want to hear more, make sure you subscribe to the show in your favorite podcatcher. You can also give that little bell rascal a little ringy-dingy so you know when we release new episodes. If you're social like we are, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We are at Art of NetEng. That's Art of NETENG. You can also find us on that weaving web that is the internet at artofnetworkengineering.com. There you'll find our show notes and some blog articles from the hosts, guests, and other friends who just like getting their thoughts down on that virtual paper. Until next time, friends, thanks for listening.